Hi, my name is Alexandrina Vasilichi, and I'm a PhD student at the Max Planck Institute for Biological Cybernetics, and I'm part of the PhD program Max Planck School of Cognition. Right, so here I'm going to present some of the work that I did during my PhD, and the project is called Affective Expectations Are Modulated by the Interplay Between Visceral Signals and Uncertainty of the Sensory Environment. So as prior research has shown, prior expectations shape the way that we perceive the world as well as our affective experience. And research so far has shown that, unambiguously shown, that there is an interaction between priors and the ambiguity of the sensory environment. So for instance, when the sensors, when the sensory input is highly certain, then participants, people are less reliant on their priors, for instance, and the other way around. For instance, if the priors are really strong, but the sensory input is not as reliable, then they are more reliant on their priors. And as we know, like numerous studies have shown that the cardiac phase plays a role in exteroceptive perception, and some result that comes up with the consistency is that especially during the systolic intervals, the perceptual performance with relation to the stimuli is impaired. And here I just highlighted some of the studies in this field. Right. But so far, like no research has looked at how visceral rhythms affect the interaction between priors and the input. And yeah, in this research, in this study, I want to look at how the cardiac phase might interact with different sources of uncertainty in the environment in order to affect behavior. And here, like in terms of perception, I'm looking at prior expectations, and in terms of input, I'm looking at sensory ambiguity and affective valence. Right, so this is the task that it's been used. In this analysis, I included 233 healthy volunteers, and then the subjects did this confidence weighting task while their ECG signal was recorded. And here you can see the trial structure, and here below is the Q outcome contingency space. And for the trial started with either of the two Qs being presented, and this was followed by a stimulus, which was a face. 1 second. Yeah, it's coming later. Which was a face, and then subjects had to say whether that face was angry or happy, and then they had to rate their confidence, and then the next trial started. So the faces were either happy or angry. So there were two types of stimuli, and then either each of the two Qs predicted each of the two stimuli with a relative consistencies. And here it shows that, for instance, in this set of trials, the the elephant Q was predicting happy with high probability, and like angry face was predicted by the other Q with high probability as well. And then this Q stimulus association changed during the experiment. So for instance, here, like this highly expected trials were followed by non-predictive trials where the Q stimulus association was like 50-50, and then here was another highly predictive trial block, and then here non-predictive block, and then here you can see this Q stimulus association switched, and here remained the same, and here switched again, and then here switched again. Okay, and so there were 4 categories of face stimuli. So you know they were angry and happy, but it was like highly certain, angry, happy, and uncertain, angry, and happy. And this like uncertainty level was tailored to subject's own subjective point of discrimination, and this was done before the main task. Subjects completed a Bayesian psychophysics measure, which actually identify the subjective point of discrimination for each of these participants, like where do they actually discriminate between angry and happy, because this was relatively different across subjects. And so the highly certain faces, happy and angry, were the same for every single subject, but the uncertain ones were tailored, right? Okay, so here's the hard phase definition for to identify the end of the T wave. I used this end of T wave by trapezium's area approach. So we had this talk to us by Ezra Al in the Monday's tutorial. Okay, and right. So whatever, like this was the systole and this is the diastole, right. And this is the positive controls. This is just showing that the task is doing what it's meant to do. It shows that for the ambiguous stimuli, participants' error rate is affected, and this is increasing. This is dependent on the prior expectation. So when the stimuli was highly expected, participants were less error-prone than when the stimulus was unexpected. Okay. And right, so I fitted a generalized linear mixed effects model to trial decision reaction time, accuracy, and confidence using a binary cardiac phase. Using the binary cardiac phase, the prior ambiguity and valence as factors, and then this is the random effect structure, and only the model that predicted decision reaction time showed the cardiac effects, and here I just put it the distribution of the raw decision reaction time. Right, so yeah, here I'm just breaking down this four-way interaction. So I looked at the three-way interactions that included the hard phase, because that was what I was most interested in. And in the context of prior ambiguity and hard phase, I found a significant difference between systole and diastole in the case of expected and unambiguous stimuli. So participants were faster in this particular context, and here I showed I plotted the density distribution of raw decision reaction time. I'm sorry, like for this particular example, I didn't match the colors, but you can see the effect is actually really small. It's significant, but really small. And here for the ambiguity, valence, and hard phase, I found that subjects were faster on systole for angry, ambiguous faces. And here similar. And here subjects were faster for angry, expected stimuli. Yeah. And here I tried to connect it with some of the previous literature, like why would subjects be faster during systole? And some of the more recent work showed that the motor activity is optimized during systole, and faster reaction time for angry stimuli during systole. So for both these three interactions came as significant. So there is this like 1 decade old research that showed that enhanced threat processing the threat processing is enhanced at systole. Right, so conclusions. The speed of affective perceptual inferences may be dependent on the cyclic fluctuations in the cardiac domain, and these cardiac effects, as revealed by our binarization, may be dependent on like a specific profile of sensory noise, prior expectations, and the valence characteristics of the stimuli. And the effects observed were small, but for future work, I want to use a more continuous cardiac measure to potentially capture more nuanced effects. And for future work, I want to examine this confidence weighting task in the context of a computation model. So I want to use the volatile Kalman filter and potentially others to compare how the model performs. And then after I do that, I want to integrate the cardiac effects in these models, and then I want to fit a circular statistical model with a continuous cardiac measure. And then, if the time allows, then I want to investigate whether these individual differences in affective learning and their interaction with the cardiac cycle are dependent on participants' own interoceptive ability. Right. Thank you.
We have time for one question. Why do you think you find this difference between the balance of the stimuli? They have been also in the field before, no? There's not the same for fearful or happy faces?
Yeah, so why do I find it?
Yes, where do you think it's coming from?
I don't really know. It's interesting because it comes up with, like, not only in the context of the cardiac phases, but also in the context of just the behavior itself. And the way I related it with this previous research, it showed that people are faster at processing, people are more accurate at processing fear stimuli at systole as opposed to diastole, and there wasn't any significant difference in any of the other emotions, just in this particular fear, and then they also perceived it as more intense. So it could be related to threat perception, and that it might be beneficial for us to perceive it as more like faster at systole.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.